Lord, turn my water into wine. After St. John has narrated to us, presented to us who Jesus is, he's the Word who was in the beginning with God, and he was God, and everything was created by him, through him, and with him. In the second chapter of this gospel, we hear about the first sign that Jesus made that even helped those who are following him to believe in him. Which means until this time, these guys were walking with him, but perhaps not taking him so seriously. But after this sign, they saw something different about him. Many lessons can be learned from here. One, organize the wedding. Don't be afraid to start. Send out invitations. Avail the jars and the water. And then God will speak to the service providers, but you have to notify them. This miracle of turning water into wine, as reported in John chapter 2, verses 1 to 11, was the sign that the Lord performed as the beginning of his signs. And many lessons can be learned from here. Yes, do not be afraid to start. Organize the wedding despite the limited resources. Inviting guests and one runs out of food or drink to feed them, and particularly on such a special and remarkable day as a wedding, can be very stressful and embarrassing. So this sign must have been a lifesaver. But the couple that organized this wedding must have been exceptional too. They were not ready to let anything stand in their way to having what they so much desired to be realized. And actually, the reason this miraculous intervention happened was because the wedding was already taking place. And this gave opportunity to them to witness this sign as the beginning of his signs. They had the courage to set out and do what they felt inspired to do, what they knew was the right thing to do despite the limited resources. Many times we limit God and stand in his way to performing extraordinary signs in our life because we are afraid to set out and start working on the projects he wants us to accomplish. The maxim, if you dream it, you can achieve it, applies rightly here. And indeed it is true also for all other undertakings. By the mere fact that that noble idea comes to your mind, many times the Lord is whispering to you that you can achieve it if you give it a shot. You only need to take a step. And one reason we oftentimes fail when we seek other people's opinions on our conceived but yet unstarted projects is because we are making inquiries from people who don't carry the same dream as we do. God has not revealed it to them, so they don't get it. So it is understandable when they assure you that you cannot do it, because in all truth, that's what they see. That's all they know. And they cannot see what you see. Although it is great to seek knowledge from other people, but one needs to be conscious of the advice they give. One ought to choose what is in tandem with their dream. Many of the great inventions and discoveries came as a result of people who had ideas and were willing to get working on them. Many of them were not sure of all the steps required to achieve what they needed to achieve, but they were willing to do their best along the way and to trust the power from on high to guide their steps. So the principal lesson that can be learned from this test is start right now. If you feel inspired to do something, don't be afraid to set into motion. Go on, get moving. Do what is in your power to do. Set the resources and manpower you have into motion. Organize the wedding and leave the rest. Many people are afraid to start. Others are waiting for the right timing. Others are still gathering resources. In the meantime, the couple at the wedding with limited resources is testifying to the great miraculous intervention of the Lord. The Lord challenges us not to be afraid to start out on anything He drops into our mind or heart, as long as we feel inspired to do it and we know it's the right thing to do. Do your best, and God will fill in what is missing. He will supply for your lack, and you will indeed testify to His miraculous interventions. The second big lesson is send out to the invitations. As we lay down the plans we have conceived and set into motion to execute them, one needs to have the Lord involved at every stage. As we plan out our functions or undertakings, one of the things that we need to take into account is the human resource. Who do I need to contact? Whom should I invite? Who should I call? Who needs to be notified about it, and to what level? This smart couple knew the secret. You need to have Jesus and His mother at your party, so invite them. The process by which we drop or send invitations to Jesus is called prayer. The process by which we seek the Blessed Mother's presence at our functions is called praying the Rosary. By praying, we are registering our need to God for Him to be part of whatever situation we present to Him. Some people remember to pray when things are not working out. But here we see a couple who knew that prayer happens at the beginning of the plan, right at the start, not just when things have failed. Actually, prayer ought to be a lifestyle. Some people remember to pray when they're lost and confused. Actually, some people pray at a time when the prayer should be working. That is, at the time we see trouble all around us is the actual time that our prayer should have been remedying our situation. But then, that's the time when some people begin to run around for prayer help. It ought to be a lifestyle. Pray all the time. Pray even when you don't have a need, at least pray for others. What we see happening is, because the couple had their praying done in time, they sent out the invitations to Jesus and Mary. Now, even without having to ask again, the previous prayer gets to work for them. Mary is the one who now takes the initiative to ask, to ensure that her friends, those who invited her, them that are praying the Rosary, have what they need at this moment. And because she knew who could get things done, she speaks to Him on their behalf. Without having them to intervene again, to speak again, she speaks. This is called intercession. She stands in the gap for them. One could wonder if their own prayer was not enough to get Jesus working for them before they asked. I could say in the affirmative that it wasn't, seeing how Jesus responded even to Mary at first. Woman, how does that affect me? My time has not yet come. But then His choice to perform the miracle a little while later shows how powerful intercession is, and indeed how great an intercessor Mother Mary is. Pray, and pray the Rosary always, and the Lord and our Blessed Mother will step into your situation at a time that you need them. The third big lesson here: do you have the water jars and the water? Although the Lord cannot be limited when He decides to take action, and His ways cannot be limited, but as often said, fear and inaction is not a strategy. We need to make concrete plans and pray with trust to the Lord to step in when need arises, but not just to keep waiting and hoping that food shall fall from heaven as manna. Actually, even when the manna fell from heaven, they kept wondering what it is. What is this? It wasn't what they were expecting to happen. We need to put in place the best teams and the best resources that we can all have and intend to work with to get things done. Of course, they may not be enough. They may not be good enough, but we need to put out our best. Augustine reminds us that grace builds on nature. Since there were only 6 water jars, the Lord made as much wine as could fit into the 6 water jars. One could think about it this way: if only they didn't have the water jars, or if only they had only 2 water jars, what could have happened? Or even if they didn't have the water, do what is in your power. Have the water in place. Have the resources you can in place. And then God will know how to work with what you have according to what you intend to achieve. And then lastly, the Lord will speak to the service providers, but it is you to notify them in the first place. The words, "do whatever he tells you," and "fill the jars with water," are not addressed to the couple, who one could say are the direct beneficiaries of the miracle. These words are spoken to the servants. The servants could be that CEO, that priest, that doctor, that secretary, that political leader, or whichever stakeholder, or somebody who will have to make a move in order to get your things moving. This person may not be related to you at all, except that they saw your letter of application or that they heard about your story, and the Lord simply moves their hearts in your favor, and they're determined to do everything in their power to get things moving in your favor. We sometimes seek favors from the bosses or other peoples, forgetting that only God can move hearts. Other times we spend time worrying and wondering why some people don't value us and perhaps never see any of the good we do, forgetting that it's not their duty to do so. Speak to your God, and your God will speak to those peoples for you. The only thing you need to do with the people is to notify them about what you need from them. Write that application. Drop your proposal to that donor. Speak to that girl or boy whose hand you want to have in marriage. Contact that person whom you feel inspired to have as a friend, a mentor. Appeal against the injustices that surround you. Apply for the pay rise that you need. Speak to your child about the aspirations you have for them, and leave it to God. Pray it up. Speak to them. Pray to your God. And He knows how to touch and bend their hearts and have them focused on doing not just what will please you, but what will surprise you beyond measure. And behold, you too shall testify to the greatness of our God, who turns our water into wine. Lord, turn my water into wine. And may the blessing of the mighty God, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit come down upon you and remain with you now and forever. Shalom.